You ever notice that everywhere you look, there's an Apple Watch? It's wild because there are so few Android watches out there, specifically in the US, despite plenty of people owning an Android phone. But there's a new generation of Android watches out there, and this could be a game changer, so let's talk about that. Many Android wearables for the longest time have been inconsistent to say the least and downright unusable at the worst of times. We're talking bloated, laggy software, a mix of poor low-end hardware, and usually ecosystems that don't get maintained or updated. There were some exceptions of course, but they were few and far between. Samsung switched from its Tizen OS over to Google's WearOS, came with new hardware. The Galaxy Watch 4, 5 and now 6 are all really good watches, and Google's own Pixel Watch line are also good smartwatches. But you know what makes these things different to the previous poor offerings that came before them? Well, it's two things: a much better processor and more RAM. It turns out WearOS really wants 1.5 to 2 gigs of RAM to run smoothly, and these new watches have that. The Pixel Watch 2's performance is some of the best I've experienced on any wearable, Apple Watch included. It's fast, it's fluid, it's largely stutter-free, and when I say largely, there was one occasion where the watch hitched and it was for a split second going into an application, but that's it. The Qualcomm 5100 chip, 2 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of onboard storage all come together to give you a consistent, smooth experience, which is something I've wanted from an Android watch for so many years. Smartwatches are made to be convenient and seamless with your life, not another thing to wait around for. Speaking of seamless and convenient, the Pixel Watch 2's design is spot on. Its pebble-like aluminium shape, as in the Rock, not the other kind of smartwatch, is elegant and minimalistic in nature, which translates to something that feels classy on your wrist. The digital crown is easy to turn and to click, with the button just sat above that being a little harder to feel out, but after a couple of days you will get used to it and know where to push it. I have tiny wrists, and even then the Pixel Watch 2 never looked or felt out of place. And that's coming from a long-term Garmin Fenix wearer, so I'm used to a tank-like timepiece anyway. I didn't mind the black rubber strap, it fits and sits well and is relatively comfortable, though I have a bit of an issue with my skin reacting to some rubber straps. This one didn't seem to be very bad at all, with the Pixel Watch 2's feeling pretty good. There seems to be a fair selection of metal, leather, fabric and rubber straps to choose from on Google's official store, though there is an even bigger selection of much cheaper third-party options on Amazon, which is also great to see. The Gorilla Glass 5 coated OLED display is pretty sharp. Its inky blacks make many of the watch faces pop. I think it looks really clean, though it has some relatively thick bezels. I didn't mind it because the OLED display tends to not show them very easily, but those expecting an edge-to-edge display may want to look at a different model. Annoyingly, it doesn't get crazy bright, which is fine in drab weather like we tend to have in the UK. But on the few sunny days we've had here, it's harder to read than I'd like, topping out at an advertised 1000 nits compared to the 2000 of the Galaxy Watch 6 and 3000 of the Apple Watch Ultra 2. It's not a deal-breaking issue, but it is quite annoying, and I'm hoping for the next generation they increase the display's brightness. While we don't have solid information on the refresh rate, recording it side by side with a 60Hz display and slowing the footage down, it looks to be a 60Hz panel, which is about in line with other units on the market. There are some rumours that it's a 30Hz display, and whilst it doesn't feel mega smooth, and Google being cagey with its refresh rates doesn't help at all, it certainly doesn't feel 30Hz. And personally, I don't really want a 90Hz display because it's a smartwatch, and I believe there's no need for a high refresh rate watch display. One thing I would like to have seen though is a variable refresh rate LTPO panel with the ability to drop the frame rate all the way down to like 1 just to increase the battery life. The Pixel Watch 2 hosts Google's WearOS 4, and it's a good looking, smooth and intuitive experience. From the home screen you click the crown for your apps, you click it again for home, you click the top button for recents, with the second push bringing you back to the home screen again. It's a swipe up for notifications, a swipe down for quick settings, a swipe left and right to navigate your home tiles, such as maps, weather, heart rate, step count, that kind of thing. And these tiles can be moved around, added to, removed, all via the Watch app on your phone, which is a pretty easy thing to navigate in and of itself. You can install apps, change watch faces, set up cellular connectivity if you have an LTE variant like the one I have here. And because Google owns Fitbit, you can pair your accounts, adjust permissions, and so on, all on the Watch mobile app. One area where many Android watches have been caught out in the past is the battery life, especially with the first gen Pixel Watch falling short last year. I managed to get this year's model to go over 36 hours, which is pretty solid. Though coming from my 2-week plus Garmin, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, but I digress. This is with the adaptive brightness turned off, then set to 3 or 4 out of 5. Always on display was also disabled in my testing, and I tracked trail walking on some of the days too, but I wasn't crazy active. It is also worth noting I used the built-in nighttime mode, which basically turns everything off or leaves it on standby whilst you're sleeping and doesn't automatically activate. And then when you wake up, you can just disable nighttime mode and get back to how things were. To make full use of the Watch 2's tracking features in bed, such as sleep and heart rate, I would charge this thing just after getting out of bed, which takes about an hour and 15 minutes for 100%, about the right amount of time to have a shower, make some breakfast and a cup of coffee. And then I'd put it back on my wrist after that for the rest of the day and through the night as well to collect the sleep data. It charges on this magnetic puck with 4 pins that have to be aligned in a specific way to work. This isn't a problem because you will feel when it's not on properly, and it basically needs the cable to come out where the crown is. Since Google owns Fitbit, the maker of some of the most popular fitness wearables around, it makes sense that the Pixel Watches have a tie-in somewhere with Fitbit. The Watch 2 has Fitbit activities that you can activate tracking for on the watch, and then open the app on your phone to get a breakdown of stuff like jogs, walks, any kind of activity, alongside sleep tracking with a breakdown of how well you slept. All this fitness tracking stuff is fairly accurate compared to the Garmin Fenix 7 that I compared it with at points, but one area I found the Pixel 2 to really hit snags in was connecting to GPS. I live in an area where GPS can be a little bit hit or miss, even on the Garmin, but the Pixel Watch 2, I found I'd sometimes have to wait up to like 5 minutes for the thing to connect, and then I'd start the activity. You can start the activity before it connects to GPS, it's just you won't get the most accurate data from it because obviously part of the activity won't have that full GPS connection. Waiting around for it was quite annoying at times. I want to just get on with what I'm doing. However, in areas with better GPS connectivity, it took more time than my Garmin, but not enough to be a total game changer. We're talking sort of 10 to 15 seconds in these cases. The Pixel Watch 2 is pretty pricey at $349 for the base model, especially when you consider that Apple's latest Watch Series 9 starts at $399 and in my opinion is a better overall wearable. Oh, and Samsung's Galaxy Watch 6 is just $300, which is a steal by comparison with better battery life, more size options, a more robust design in my opinion, not to mention the fact that Samsung has been doing this watch thing for a few more years, so has a more refined product in my opinion. Let me know if you want me to do a video on the Watch 6 by the way. That said, the Pixel Watch 2 is a solid smartwatch and one that I've enjoyed reviewing because of its decent hardware, great performance, good battery life and well sorted software. Coming from my Garmin, I wasn't expecting fitness tracking capabilities to be amazing, but I was pleasantly surprised with some solid data. Google needs to improve the display size, the brightness, and give a couple more design options at the point of purchase in my opinion, maybe reducing the cost of some of those straps. But the Pixel Watch 2 is a solid step in the right direction and is the reason I'm giving WearOS another chance. That's it from me guys, let me know what you think of the Pixel Watch 2 in the comments. Are you a WearOS fan who's stuck with it through all of this? Do you remember the Moto 360? It's one of my favourite wearables of all time. Or are you still skeptical about the software with WearOS? Hit like and subscribe to never miss a video like this one. I've been Ryan Thomas with Android Police and I'll catch you later. Cheers.